Welcome to The Business of Ours podcast. We invite app industry professionals to cover various topics. We promise to do our best to keep it both insightful but brief. In this episode, we have Thomas Butta, Chief Strategy and Marketing Officer at Airship. Thomas, welcome to The Business of Ours podcast.
Artem, it's great to be on this side of the podcast.
Awesome. Thank you for coming. This is great. Okay, I'm going to start with setting up the stage for our today's conversation. Do you like the holiday season? Yes. It's a hypothetical question. We all do. Why do we love this time of the year? Because this is the time when we all buy something nice, right? We download shopping apps and go ahead and pick up something we desperately need. Okay, it's all great. But if you are a retailer and you launch app user acquisition campaigns during the holiday season, there's a very important insight for you in this episode. So listen carefully. Thomas, let's kick off with talking about you. Please tell us about yourself.
Great. So as you mentioned, I am the Chief Strategy and Marketing Officer for Airship. I oversee our go-to-market strategy, all of the marketing, our partnerships, and other corporate development. I have been in a role like this now for over 2 decades. I've mostly worked for enterprise software companies that have been really creating new important classes of software for other businesses. I first worked at Red Hat. I was the first chief marketing officer at Red Hat, and we brought about the open source movement, which I think has really accelerated the fact that everything is digital today. I worked at PTC, where we brought about the idea of product lifecycle management, which is getting the entire enterprise to focus on a product. I worked at Sprinkler, where we brought about the idea of social media management actually affects the customer brand interaction in a way that is very different than how it used to be. And then I was most recently in Silicon Valley working for a company that helps monitor the performance of that software in real time called Signal Effects. And I've been an advisor to Airship, and I've gotten to know their CEO, Brett Keane, now for over, I guess it's been 12 years now. And 3 years ago in September, it seemed like a good opportunity to join the company to do the kinds of things that I've done throughout my career.
Not to refer to your age, but 20 years in IT for the internet is eternity. I bet you have so many memories, back in the day 20 years ago, and now when so many things that we take for granted today just did not exist at all.
100%. And quite honestly, the early part of my career, being on the kind of client side, was on the agency side. And we were strategic consultants to many consumer brands. And then we were beginning to work with technology companies that started to see themselves more applicable to a broader market than just the typical sort of finance organizations or IT organizations. And so my approach for a long time was quite novel, because I was applying a consumer marketing or a consumer brand approach, in a classic B2B product oriented, business. And I used to call it, there was like, how marketing was done for so many companies was the Silicon Valley way, which was, it was all about the product, and the features and the functionality. And all of a sudden I was introducing a way that was able to tap into how people were feeling emotionally, and then rationalize it, that feeling with, supportive, sort of intellectual information. And that worked, I think, really well for a long time. As you know, that's changed, right? Because now these technology brands are ubiquitous with they're the household names. I mean, so we're all being Googled, right? as an example. It's become a verb.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just the sea of change over this 20 years. And yeah, I totally see what you mean by introducing the human component, the emotional component back in the day. Like, the classical difference between Apple's approach to business, listening to people with their needs, giving them exactly what they need, not selling them features, but benefits, and kind of a Microsoft Google approach where everything is calculated and the emotions are not even close and human component is not there.
Exactly.
Tell me about Airship. What services do you provide on the market?
Sure. So Airship is a customer experience platform. We were founded 15 years ago as a developer platform to help developers insert unique pieces of software that help improve the experience that we all have with their digital products. Most of those digital products were apps, and nearly all of the interactions that people have today, whether it's in an app or it's on a web browser or it's through other means, is through the mobile device. So Airship really helps brands create experiences that their customers want. I talk about their customers. I'm actually talking about you and me. I'm talking about us. Experiences has become the new brand, right? And so what we do is we create unique capabilities throughout the entire life cycle that help brands create those experiences that we all really want and get value from, in a way that gives the marketers and the product teams the ease, the freedom, and the control that they want and need to enable that to happen. And we work with, I would say, probably many of the companies that you have in your phone and you have apps for, from companies that you might buy your coffee from anywhere in the world, or airlines that you may be flying and receiving your notifications about it's time to check in, and your wallet, housing for your mobile boarding pass, et cetera, to where you and how you receive news and information and weather, to sports, teams that you might follow, or places where you might shop for whether fast food or even, fashion goods, or home improvement needs. So, we're fortunate to have terrific customers, and ultimately what we help them do is to both provide and receive more value from the customers that they interact with, because it's a give and take.
I see. So, like you said, we live in a world where mobile apps, it's part of our life, 7 days a week. We interact with a bunch of apps for work, leisure, for fun, for anything basically. And thanks to you guys, this experience is pleasant. That's why we continue to use these apps, because we feel like the apps, people behind the apps, they see our needs. They understand what we need. They're not seeing in us only numbers on the spreadsheet.
No, that's exactly right. And the fascinating thing, and it's something maybe we hadn't talked about before. We put together the talk track here, but in a study that we've done now year over year with 11,000 mobile consumers, what we've learned is that we are willing to share a lot of information, actually, in exchange for receiving curated, personalized, relevant, and of course valuable information and experiences. And so if I'm giving you some information that will help you make this experience better for me, then I feel happier, and I will reward you most likely with continued engagement and loyalty. And so that value exchange is actually quite interesting, and it's not there's really no reason to guess anymore, and there's no reason to do impersonal kind of advertising that follows you around the internet, because you happen to have visited a site, right? Retargeting, as it were. But these, you're authenticated when you're in an app, right? You download and then you authenticate yourself and you activate through registration. I mean, chief security officers love the apps because, we know who you are, right? There's no third-party stuff, right? We know exactly who you are, and to the degree you're providing information, we're asking it in the right way, not too much too soon, but in this, it's a little bit of a dance, much like relationship building is, right? And if you do that well and you orchestrate it well, and you orchestrate those journeys for the consumer, the customer, then your odds are much greater of getting more value, capturing more value from that customer because you're providing more value.
Now, Thomas, tell us about the Airship's Peak App Install Research Report. What are the report's key findings?
Many people love holidays, maybe some people don't, because you buy stuff for yourself, maybe for other people, and maybe you've got a list that you have to, buy things for people, or you've got things that you need to do. So there's this period of time where there's the idea of shopping is really heightened. And it begins somewhere in October and it goes through, sort of Black Friday, which I think is the peak day, Cyber Monday. So it goes through the traditional holidays by, through the end of the year, leading up to the end of the year. And we surveyed more than 60 million new app installs, right? So of the number of apps that were installed during that period, we looked at 60 million new ones that were added to your device. And we were very interested in understanding what happens after that, peak shopping season. And the findings were fascinating. So you spend, as you pointed out, we spend all this time, with growth marketers, as it were, trying to acquire, new customers, right? Because you have things to sell them, right? And you want them to download the app as a facility for doing that. Spend all this money to get these people to do something. And what we found is this huge drop-off after the peak shopping season at a much higher rate than the drop-off that typically occurs during all other times of the year. So in other words, during that peak shopping season, you get all these people to download, and the percent of people dropping off relative to a normalized state is 27% greater. Right? So one in 4 people are dropping out more so than they do normally, which is crazy because, you can understand from the consumer side, from, as us shoppers, you want to get a deal, right? So I'm going to get 10% off as a new customer, whatever it might be. I sign up and maybe I do a transaction, maybe I don't. And then I'm done. Well, that's probably the normal path, but that doesn't mean that you can't manage that experience in a way to improve, right, the engagement level with that person you spent all this money to try to bring in, and now there's a lot more of them. So it's kind of wasteful, and frankly, I think a lot of it is in your control, is in the control of the brands, and they're just not paying attention to it in the way that they should. And I can talk to some of the things that maybe they can do, but it was a really, really interesting, eye-opening fact, because we know in general, we call it life after download. We know that there's a natural drop-off, right, after download, and what we also know is every percentage improvement of those retention, right, of that original person who activated, right, every percentage that you increase their engagement over time is huge. It's a huge amount of money, like in terms of revenue and profitability. Like depending upon the industry, it's like 25 to, I don't know, 75, 85, 95% more profitability just by improving each percentage point of retention over time.
This is amazing. So, yeah, I love this phrase, life after download. So we know there's no life after death, but there's life after download.
Well, there should be. I mean,
there should be. Like, yeah, we're trying to make everything we can to so that would be the case. I assume people kind of naturally pouring their resources, emotionally being really involved to get new customers, to get new downloads for the apps. They're happy they've got these people on board. They go home for a turkey dinner or something, and they believe they've done it. That's it. Not realizing that the clock is ticking, and the week after and the week after that period, they're going to lose so much of these folks they've just got for a higher price than previous weeks before the holiday season. How can retailers improve retention rates for customers acquired during peak shopping periods like Black Friday?
Well, I think they need to follow some of the fundamentals. First of all, the way you onboard people is really, really important. I mean, that idea of a welcome kit, right? So you download an app, right then and there you have attention, right? The attention of people. They've downloaded your app for one reason or another. What you do next is really, really important. So that onboarding experience, that welcome experience, is really key. And what you're trying to do is two things. You're trying to get to know these people, right, that are downloaded. So you're doing it in a way that's showing them with a little bit of information here and here. You can provide a more curated or personalized and relevant experience for them over there. And so the little bit of that give and take, right, is important. And then the second is really helping people to understand what the app is all about, right? How to navigate it, how to use it, how to maybe, how to make the process of a transaction faster. And so there's something that we've created we call scenes, and it's you can literally sort of show scene by scene, the kinds of things that you can do and what you can do. And there's also the need to tell your story, and you talked about the differences today and how technology brands, an app, right, communicates. Before it may have been, here's a bunch of information, and you would read it, right? Whereas in Apple's case, it became more emotive and it became very intuitive. And so you've got things like stories on Instagram, or Facebook, right, where that's all people post is just a story. And we've taken that concept and we've brought it into the app as well. So you literally can create a story. The story can be a series of scenes. It can be a little video. It can be a little animation. It could be a little bit of a way to just help people understand, what you are all about, and and we do that in such a way today that isn't this big production that requires you to go to the development organization and they've got to put it in the queue and can get it done in the next 6 months. This is actually something now with no code and native capability that a marketer and a product team member or a non-technical person can do really in minutes. And so that really helps speed things along. It takes it lets the developers focus on the bigger things that they want to be focused on, and lets the marketers and the product team do the things that they know they need to do, and now they have the ability to do it. So I think those are things that you do, that onboarding experience, that welcome experience, that ability to share your story to help people understand, what you're all about, what the value is, maybe how to use it. And then, you put something out there about potentially how to be rewarded, whether it's, an initial discount, or there's bonus points over time. Then there's the ability to experiment. Like, as you start to do some of these things, maybe you can test one approach with one group of people versus another approach with another group of people. Those are the kinds of things that, we would recommend that people do.
What key metrics should brands monitor to effectively drive app engagement?
There's something that we call an engagement score. An engagement score is sort of measuring your daily active users to your monthly active users, and how often those users return, right? So in some cases, in an airline app, you're not going to that app every day, right? In the case of a news app, maybe you are, right? Or a weather app, or a sports app, or banking app, or whatever it might be. And so you're just measuring, the return rate of that cohort of customers. Another is going beyond whether they have returned, right, or continue to engage. The question is then, how have they engaged? So those are called sessions. It's like, how many sessions per active user are you able to drive? And that sessions per active user is average number of sessions for those active users within, say, a month, or within a time period that you choose. And then it's just simply calculated by, here's the amount of users I have, and here's the amount of active users so here's the amount of sessions, and here's the amount of active users, and that gives you your average. And then the last thing is, so within those sessions, how long are they there, right? And maybe in the website, on your website, people look at, people visited such and such a page, right? So that might be like considered a session in an app. But then it's like, how long did they stay on that page, right? Was it a minute? Was it 2 minutes? Was it 3 minutes? And that session length becomes interesting, because ideally that's just showing more interest. Either that, or your stuff's too long, takes too long to read. I don't know. But those are some of the key measures that you would look at.
Got it, Thomas. Okay, we are done with the topic on the table today. We're going to include your report into the description of this episode so people can check it out themselves and dive deep into the insights. But since you're first time on the show, for a newcomer, there's a second part with just a few quick questions so we can know you a little bit better. Here we go. What smartphone do you have now? Have you been switching between these two giants, or stay one side all the time?
Good question. I'm just a long-time Apple user, and I'm on, I think, 14.
Got you. Okay, let's jump back in time before the smartphone era. What is your first mobile phone, the one you could put in your pocket?
Yeah, so I actually don't remember what it was, but I can tell you the two that that are forever etched in my memory. Probably the two that I enjoyed the most. The first was the flip phone. So I had the Motorola flip phone. It was great, and you can actually close it with one hand, like to end the call. It was pretty cool, and it was super small. But then, of course, as the smartphones became a thing, I became a BlackBerry user, And I actually really, really liked BlackBerry, and I think that's how I learned to type with my thumbs, which is how I typed, today in the keyboard.
I see. So these days when I see BlackBerry in a grocery store, I immediately recall that brand, that BlackBerry. Okay, imagine you left your home and for whatever reason your iPhone is still inside. You forgot it, you're out. What is the most missing feature for you?
Honestly, it's the two fundamentals. One is the phone, and one is the ability to call someone or the ability to text someone. It's just that form of connection. Those are the most important for me. My phone, fortunately, does not activate my where I live, so otherwise that would probably be the next one. But it's just the ability to communicate with people.
I see. Okay, for you personally, is there something about the iPhone you would like to improve, hardware, software, something that is missing, and you believe it will make it a better tool for you?
I think I like the idea of the focus, what do they call it, focus feature. I actually think that can be applied more. I've noticed that, and this is like literally within the last 2 weeks, that it has been suggested, whoever is Siri or somebody in there is suggesting, that you have a meeting coming up, it's time to wind down. In the same way it's time to wind down, your sleep cycle or whatever. I thought it was really intuitive. And it just stopped me and I go, oh, that's actually quite helpful.
I see.
So I think a little bit more of that, yeah.
Yeah, more thoughtful time management, helping you to go through your day more efficiently.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, before I let you go, very, very final question. How can people get in touch with you and get more information about what you do?
So there's probably 3 ways. So in terms of Airship, we have a very robust blog. And so our blog would be something I would recommend you subscribe to. So you go to airship.com/blog. The second is I also host a podcast. It's called Masters of Max, and it's on all the usual platforms. I have some really, really interesting guests that talk about how they've tackled the challenges of engaging customers, whether it's whether that's Lyft, or whether that's a shopping app, or or something that's actually helping to save the food waste and reapply that in places that is needed. Some really interesting guests. And then if anybody's interested in just connecting with me, my LinkedIn is, I think it's under Tom Butta, Butta.
Terrific. We're gonna land the link to your podcast and to the blog from Airship into the description of this episode, so people can definitely check them out.
Oh, great, super.
Thomas, thank you so much for coming on our show and spending time with us. Thank you. Bye bye.
Artem, it was a pleasure. Thank you.
Terrific. And that was Thomas Butta, Chief Strategy and Marketing Officer at Airship. To listen to more episodes, subscribe to our podcast on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, YouTube podcasts. Just search for Business of Apps and you will find us easily. Remember, we release episodes on Mondays, so subscribe and you will be getting new episodes of this show on your smartphone, tablet, or computer as soon as we release them. And please don't forget to leave us a review or comment on iTunes. It is highly appreciated. And our episodes will also be available on businessofapps.com. Thank you for listening. See you next week.